Come, let us explore the nature of mind and the transcendence of its desires. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. A question that can be summarized with the words, how could I know mind's nature and master its desires? The literal question is as follows. What's the real nature of mind? Can you specify the layers of mind and subtleness of mind? Above all, how to control lust? I applaud the enthusiasm and vulnerability of the individual who penned or typed this question. Let us begin with a bit of the old broad brushstrokes. Just as Heath Ledger's Joker asked, why so serious? Why is the contemporary state of both Taoism and Buddhism so confusing? Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, including humans, including meditation teachers, including philosophy teachers. But why is that? Yes, Gautama, who was known as the Buddha, was flexible and loving and rational and laid back. He was egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. But it would seem that his foolish cousin Devadatta was the opposite. Where the Buddha was flexible, Devadatta was rigid. Where the Buddha was loving, Devadatta was fearful. Where the Buddha was rational, Devadatta was superstitious. Where the Buddha was laid back, Devadatta was controlling. Where the Buddha was egalitarian, Devadatta was elitist. Where the Buddha was lucid, Devadatta was cryptic. Where the Buddha was cooperative, Devadatta was competitive. Where the Buddha was kind, Devadatta was cruel. The more cruel and elitist people are, the more they will delight in using needlessly confusing and even cryptic terminology. Sometimes people use that terminology because they're lazy-minded, and other times because they're just elitist. The Buddha warned against selling the teachings. This is what the Buddha recommended. Give the teachings away. Give them away. Perhaps people will give you alms. Perhaps they won't. That's not your job. It's not your job to coerce others into doing the right thing. It's your job to practice the teachings and share the teachings with those who desire the teachings. But not everyone liked that, and some people found it inconvenient, and they would rather coerce people through being cryptic and elitist and rigid. In Tibetan Buddhism, there is a saying. This is a beautiful statement that is needlessly marinated in obscurity. I think it makes more sense when viewed through the lens of neuroscience, so I would like to do that with you right now. Before I can show you what to do, it makes more sense if first I show you what not to do. Those who are rigid be they author or teacher, would implore you to actively train in focus and actively train in analysis. The only parts of the brain that can help you do that are very specific regions, such as the medial prefrontal cortex and the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is a splendid piece of machinery, but using it is expensive, and when we overuse it, it triggers our amygdala. This lumpy looking thing here that kind of looks like a pachinko ball or a pea or a blueberry. This amygdala is the seat of aggression and anxiety. And that's a big old bummer. Fortunately, the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex are not the only components within the central nervous system. The seventh fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path is mindfulness. The most efficient way to authentically practice mindfulness is to silently, mentally, and passively recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. Doing so induces our cerebral cortex to cooperate with our sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This sympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us perceive in a very special way, to help us perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. But what is it that we are wired to perceive? We are wired to perceive sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, sound, sense, and the like, including emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. That could sound overwhelming. What are we supposed to do with all these things that we notice? I practice the eighth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, meditation. But how do we do that? The most effective way to authentically meditate is to silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. Doing so induces our cerebral cortex to cooperate with our parasympathetic nervous system. This parasympathetic nervous system is ensconced within both the lower third as well as the upper third of our spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. But what has that to do with the nature of mind? Simply this. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation, whether we noticed mind perceiving, or emoting, or intending, or reasoning, or recalling, or imagining. Whatever mind's antics we noticed could begin to feel less, solid, less permanent, and less defining. Now that's a very literal way of looking at it. All complex animals on this planet have evolved to think symbolically. In every culture and every language, there is figurative language. So let's explore this figuratively, shall we? As we relax into our exhalation, whatever antic of mind, whatever desire of mind we have noticed, could feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand. That's the nature of mind. Many, many, many centuries ago, the great South Indian Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna taught of the two truths, and that they were both important. The truth that the conventional and the ultimate. The truth that we see through perception, and the truth that we experience through release. Or they are both important. Just if you wish to live, you must both inhale and exhale. Every time we inhale, we are wired to perceive. Every time we exhale, we are wired to release. As we release, we experience non-graspability, impermanence, and selflessness. But that experience, like all experiences, is fleeting. Our job, therefore, is not to pick and choose what to experience, but to experience what we experience without being controlled by what we experience. That comes not through logic, that comes not through faith, that comes through practice. The practice of noticing and releasing in harmony with our breathing. We can do that when we're sitting. We can do that while we're walking briskly. That is how we deal with the slings and arrows of outrageous compulsion. I think it could be great fun if together as a team we did a bit of chanting and a bit of meditating together. After approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. So I'm going to tap button 3. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. The first teacher, the first human teacher of Dzogchen legend tells us is Prahevajra. His primary teaching text on the subject was the vast expanse of Diamond Mind. And I think tonight it could be fun if we alternated between chanting just 4 of these verses and then resting in awareness and release. So this is what I would like to do. I would like to chant with you together as a team, chant the 21st verse 3 times. The first time straight through, the second time with a bit of explanation, the third time straight through. And then together as a team we can sit in meditation using the techniques we explored during the opening lesson. By the way, Prahevajra was born, raised, and lived and died in the Swat Valley. I keep forgetting. I think the Swat Valley was in Afghanistan, but my world geography is not perfect. Together. A gradual spiritual path of purification is at odds with the effortlessness of the true condition. Realization does not come by following such a path. That is like searching for the end of space. A gradual spiritual path of purification. There are 2 distinct ways of looking at any spiritual path. A sudden path or a gradual path. The Buddha taught a sudden path, saying you could master all his teachings in a week. Prahevajra taught a sudden path, saying a gradual path of great effort and mnemonics and austerities was not required. Is at odds with the effortlessness of the true condition. The Buddha taught of Buddha nature. In Sanskrit it is known as Tathagata. Buddha nature is just an Iron Age way of expressing what we now know through neuroscience. That within each healthy, normal brain, there is a sympathetic nervous system wired for mindfulness, a parasympathetic nervous system wired for meditation, and an anterior cingulate gyrus wired for empathy. Every healthy human being possesses these portions of their central nervous system. We are already wired to use them. It's up to us. We can choose to live in conflict with them, ignoring them, or actively opposing them, or we can live in cooperation with them. That's pretty effortless. I was raised in a word family where if you heard someone ramping up for a sneeze, you try to stop them from sneezing by scaring them or distracting them, which is stupid and kind of cruel. But it can be done. But it takes effort. It takes great effort to interrupt a sneeze. Likewise, we can use effort to interrupt our processes of noticing and releasing and loving. But we don't have to. We can allow them. We can surf them. Realization does not come from by following such a path. That is like searching for the end of space. When one reads the biographies of great saints, we see this over and over again, where they were led by conventional wisdom to traverse the path of intellectual and physical effort, only to exhaust themselves and realize the hard way that it was never going to give them the results they wanted. And these luminaries, to a man, discovered that the sudden path is at hand. Like a love note from your secret crush that you didn't know liked you, that was in the pocket of your overcoat all day long, whether you knew it or not. But the moment you reached in and pulled it out and read it, it changed your life. At least a little bit. So now let us chant this a third time together. Here we go. A gradual spiritual path of purification is at odds with the effortlessness of the true condition. Realization does not come by following such a path. That is like searching for the end of space. Now I'm going to be honest with you. In Tibet, the word for the gradual path is the Lam Rim or the Ngondro. And there are people who, if they hear a teaching that says you don't need the gradual path, you don't need the preparatory path, they will lose their minds. Even though 25% of them pay lip service to the great Prahevajra, they will say that, oh, these are restricted teaching for special people. And that is the elitism and control of patriarchy. There was a time when the Catholic Church forbade the common folk from reading the Vulgate, what they called the Bible, because they didn't want the common people to see how they were contradicting the Bible. Wherever there is people who, in the name of spirituality, are rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel, they will violently oppose those who are about love and light. Albert Einstein said, great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from lesser minds. So, I would like to teach you a trick that it's kind of inconvenient at first, but you can get used to it pretty quick. You come to my live streams once every 12 hours. Within a week or two, you'll master it. Gotta find the right button. It's possible to use our knuckles to collect 4 collections of 12 sets of 12 rounds. Although today we could do 8 sets. This could seem overwhelming, so I'll go over it slowly. As we breathe in and silently and mentally recite this, we can advance the tip of our right thumb and let it come to rest on various sets of creases on our fingers. Let's practice together as silently and mentally we recite this ease. So we've just learned how to count 12 repetitions on 12 rounds on just 4 fingers and 1 thumb, which is a pretty cool trick. Now, how can we count 8 sets of this? By using our left hand. By using our left hand, we can count 1 set of 12 repetitions, 2 sets of 12 repetitions, 3 sets, 4 sets, 5 sets, 6 sets, 7 sets, 8 sets. Now, I mentioned using the knuckles to gather 4 collections of 8 sets of 12 rounds. So let's focus on let's play with the first collection right now. To do that, we rest the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger, upon the tip of our left little finger, and rest both these hands palms up in our laps while our respective thumbs happily count creases. As a fringe benefit of this, energy could coalesce in our lower abdomen. We don't have to force it. It'll happen all on its own, whether we perceive it or not. Let's chant. Let's chant the 22nd verse 3 times. The first time and the third time straight through. The second time with a bit of explanation. The true condition being what it is, revealed as it is, cannot be seen as a path to travel. The state of effortless enlightenment is the source of all. Its manifestations are marvelous wonders. And now for the explanation. The true condition being what it is, revealed as it is, cannot be seen as a path to travel. Oh no, mere quarter mile from where I live, there's a park with a pull-up bar. If I walk here, I get there. But the teaching here of sudden enlightenment is that we are already wired. Because every healthy human is born with a sympathetic nervous system that's wired for mindfulness, a parasympathetic nervous system that's wired for meditation, and an anterior cingulate gyrus, which is wired for empathy. We already have what we need, not only to practice the path, but to master it in a week. It's as simple. We're already wired to do those things. We just have to choose to stop fighting these tendencies to be vulnerable and relaxed and empathetic with our friends, with strangers, even with those who mean us harm. Oh, one moment. Let's do a quick edit to make this look extra pretty. The state of effortless enlightenment is a source of all. Its manifestations are marvelous wonders. We have evolved to absolutely hate scarcity and pain and scorn and enmity. And we've evolved to absolutely crave plenty and pleasure and praise and fame. That's just how we're wired, because we have not one but two reward systems. A dopamine-oriented reward system that rewards with pleasure for procreation and anything that supports procreation. And a secondary reward system that is oxytocin-oriented and rewards with a sense of fulfillment actions of cooperation. Because of those two things, we are wired to hate certain things and crave certain things. And that has been useful for survival. But a life predicated solely upon survival might be pleasurable, but it is not fulfilling. That's the fundamental dilemma explored by the Four Noble Truths. Now, there's always something interesting or pleasurable or tantalizing to draw us from where we're at. Entire sectors of our economy are predicated upon getting us to be dissatisfied with some things and to long for other things. That's ubiquitous throughout every culture. However, what the author of this text is insisting is that the wonders of vulnerably noticing, the wonders of physically and mentally releasing, the wonders of allowing ourselves to be empathetic, that is better than the best computer, or the best TV, or the best movie, or the best sexual partner, or the best meal. Those things may be fun, those things may be lovely, but they pale in contrast to the wonders available within our own central nervous system. I'm not talking about having trippy visions, I'm not talking about getting drunk on our own neurotransmitters. I'm talking about simply mastering the path of lovingly, centeredly going with the flow. Now our final recitation of this verse. The true condition being what it is, revealed as it is, cannot be seen as a path to travel. This state of effortless enlightenment is a source of all. Its manifestations are all marvelous wonders. So, this gold color reminds us that when we rest the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger upon the tip of our left ring finger, and we rest both these hands palms up in our lap, we should not be surprised if we start to feel moderately pleasurable sensations behind our navel. If you've just joined in, allow me to remind you that by silently and mentally reciting this during our inhalation facilitates the perception of mindfulness, and that silently and mentally reciting the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation facilitates the physical relaxation and the mental release that is meditation. We turn our attention now to our third of 4 verses this evening. We can chant it 3 times. The second time, I'll intersperse some explanation if it's necessary. Together. Past and present abide within the true condition. The eternal now of consciousness is the path for all. This is suchness, the light of wisdom, the realization of enlightened beings both past and yet to come. And now the explanation. Well, I'll tell you, the spiders or the mosquitoes find me delicious. Past and present abide within the true condition. The eternal now of consciousness is the path for all. This is not the path of believing, for belief is a rigidity that requires effort. As we relax into our, and I think I'll just type this out. Let's do that. Let's go over here. And let's go over here and do this. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever past and as we relax into our exhalation, whatever duality of past or present, or past and present, we experienced during our previous inhalation could melt into the simplicity of now. That doesn't mean we cease to perceive past or present. It just means during our exhalation, they melt into this. This is suchness, the light of wisdom, the realization of enlightened beings both past and yet to come. So what this is inferring is we are not saying there is no past, there is no future. We're just saying that as we relax into our exhalation, as we exhale, we relax into a sense of openness, if only for a moment. And now our third recitation. Past and present abide within the true condition. The eternal now of consciousness is the path for all. This is suchness, the light of wisdom, the realization of enlightened beings both past and yet to come. The blue bowing symbol reminds us that as we rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger gently upon the tip of our left middle finger in our lap, with both palms pointing to the ceilings, as happily our thumbs count our creases, we could feel subtle sensations coalescing in our chest. and silently, and allow me to remind you, if you just joined us, that when we silently, mentally, and passively recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, it facilitates the perception that is mindfulness. When we silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, it facilitates both physical relaxation and mental release that are together known as meditation. We come to this evening's fourth and final verse, the 24th verse. Let's chant it three times. The second time we'll offer a brief explanation of what is required. This living presence is the universal way. The moon and its reflection on water or non-doom. The mind of awakening is not to be found by those engrossed in fabricated features and stages of the way. So, presence here is a synonym for mindfulness. And what we're discussing is living in, I guess I should chant it one more time. This living presence is the universal way. The way, regardless of someone's culture or gender or sexual preference, regardless of someone's political beliefs or affluence or lack thereof, the universal way to peace is paved with living in a manner that is vulnerable, passive, visceral, random, and fleeting. This vulnerability to the here and now, be it external or internal or physical or mental or pleasurable or painful or interesting or boring or glorious or grotesque, is the universal way. Whether we notice kindness or cruelty, whether we notice generosity or greed, by being vulnerable to the present moment, this is the universal way. The moon and its reflection on water or non-doom. You and I might be many thousands of miles away from the people suffering from sexism or racism or homophobia or classism or fascism or jingoism or genocide. But we are non-dual. We might look different, we might feel different. As we breathe, so as we relax into our exhalation, I might want to jot this down. The us and them that Pink Floyd sang about on Dark Side of the Moon. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever duality of us and them we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel less solid, less permanent, and less defining. As it simply melts into us. The king of typists I am not. The mind awakening is not to be, the mind of awakening is not to be found by those engrossed in fabricated features and stages of the way. Philosophers of every ilk and every tradition, often with good intentions, have squandered their lives and energy, becoming masters of minutiae, making distinctions where there are none, adding and subtracting from the simplicity of Buddha's teachings. We don't need to study or master the subtleties of metaphysics. The path is easy. Allow yourself to notice as you breathe in. Allow yourself to relax as you breathe out. Allow yourself to flow with the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity. This is the way. And now our third and final recitation. This living presence is the universal way, the moon and its reflection on water on non-dual. The mind of awakening is not to be found by those engrossed in fabricated features and stages of the way. This white image, evocative of two hands bowing in respect, is depicting the color white, the white of the page. And it reminds us that when we rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, and rest these two hands palms up in our lap, whilst our thumbs happily count sets of creases, our subtle energies could coalesce at our crown. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10.5 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.